Like, I don't know if we'll ever see another Julian Sayin at Ohio State. And not that talent, but what I mean by that is a redshirt freshman starting quarterback. I don't know if you'll see that again. Urban was talking with Mark Ingram about roster building and how to do it and what exactly the plan is going to be around here going forward. Here's Urban on that.
I think that the template has all been set now. The Big Ten's won it 3 years in a row. Most mature veteran teams. The Wolverines did it. The Buckeyes did it. I actually talked to Coach Day about that yesterday. We talked before the game, and he mentioned that everybody is now – that's it, and everyone's talking about it. How do we get a locker room of grown-ass men that's been through it? As opposed to coaching that 21-year-old, Mark, is a much different cry than that 18-year-old. You got a grown-ass man with experience that understands the game.
There's I understand why they're doing it. Because the difference between, I mean, just think of yourselves out there listening, like what you were as a 19-year-old versus what you are as a 22 or 23-year-old. Maturity, how you're different. Physically, how you're different. I think, and we had an email about this in the email segment of the program too. This is going to be a very interesting needle for Ryan Day to thread in terms of roster composition. And Mark Pantoni is the best in the business in regard to identifying high school talent and getting the guys to find out. He's the ambassador cool for a reason. Getting those guys, and some of what they've done in recruiting here is there's really only 3 programs who've recruited at this level since Urban got here through Ryan, and Mark's been one of the constants through all of that. Has been it's Ohio State, it's Georgia, and it's Alabama. That's kind of it. They're the only ones who kind of recruited at that level the entire time. And it's no secret that if you have the most talent, you win games. It's pretty simple. And they've won a lot, and they've won championships and all of those things. But you did see a shift. I think you're going to see an even bigger shift going forward. The new recruiting rules are very different too. The idea that coordinators aren't going to have to go out on the road and recruit, that there will be designated recruiters that go and do that. I've floated this out before. Like, I don't know if we'll ever see another Julian Sayin at Ohio State. And not that talent, but what I mean by that is a redshirt freshman starting quarterback. I don't know if you'll see that again. I don't know. This just happened at Miami with Mensa. I don't know if Miami is ever going to recruit another quarterback again. Not sure if LSU is ever going to recruit another quarterback again. You certainly aren't going to pay him. You're not going to pay him the top dollars. What exactly was Florida's return on investment on DJ Legway? And it's not all DJ Legway's fault. I'm not putting it on him. I'm not putting it on the parents. Like, he got a massive check to go to Florida. In part because of that, it was important that he started pretty soon. And I don't think he was scheduled to start right away at Florida. I think there was an injury, and he started in that freshman year, but started the better part of 2 years at Florida. And then you get a new coach in there, and he goes, well, I kind of like to go in a different direction. This development didn't take place the way that I want. Now DJ Legway's at Baylor. So, and I did see the comments from Tavian St. Clair in terms of development and how much he's learned. And I think everybody wants, like, a St. Clairsville kid to be a 5-star quarterback from St. Clairsville, to be or not St. Clairsville. Where's he from?
He's from Bellefontaine.
Bellefontaine. Sorry. Wrong direction. Bellefontaine. You'd love to see a 5-star quarterback from Bellefontaine elevate to starting quarterback at Ohio State and be developed here and all of the things that go with it. I just don't know if it's realistic anymore in this day and age. And I don't know if coaches can afford to do it either. You think about the gamble that, like, Kalen DeBoer is making with Keelan Russell. I mean, he was his quarterback. He better damn well be good. He was a 5-star kid. He was compensated richly. He better be good. And so how you build these things, I still think you're going to be in the markets with your Chris Henry Jr.'s and your Jeremiah Smiths and your Bo Jacksons out of high school. I still think you're going to do that. I still think there's defensive players that are going to have elite traits. I mean, just think about, like, Riley Pettijohn, who was a 5-star linebacker that threes nabbed out of Texas. Riley Pettijohn better be a dude this year. He better be a real dude. He has to be. And that's the kind of where we are with all of this is trying to find what is the sweet spot of building a team that consistently compete as a champion. One of the casualties of that is you're not going to be able to watch players grow the way you used to. And I know there's a great many of you who aren't going to like that. And I'm among you. I like the idea of seeing a kid pop. It was cool seeing Zeke Elliott as a freshman on special teams and then seeing him make a couple of big plays as a freshman at Purdue and thinking, well, he's got next. I don't know if that's going to happen anymore, and that's a casualty of all of this. But I also know I really don't think that that's ever coming back in the purest sense. I think this is kind of where we are going forward. I do think the portal stuff would shut down with CBA. That would shut that down because then you'd have contracts and then you could get back to some of that development. So there is a path for this to calm down, this free portal, all of this stuff. That would transfer, that would shut down if you did CBAs and there were contracts that were actually admissible and people would be held to. But until that happens, this is the world you're going to live in.
And I hope that's you're always going to have, those 5-star running backs, 5-star wide receivers, like the elite of the elite talent is still going to be whom you go and try to get right out of high school. But yeah, I don't think the spending or the we're going to outspend this one program for that is going to matter relative to how much you're spending on transfer portal guys who not only are older in age and maturity, but have seen and played so much football. Like, I think it was like 50 some odd games that Carson Beck had started. I think that's so much football. Yeah. There's so many different situations that he has seen over his stops at Georgia and at Miami. When you get into those moments against Indiana for, Julian Sayin, I think it's really going to help that he had those 2 games against Indiana, against Miami in his future development. And I do hope that Ohio State is still involved in getting those guys. Then they were in on Julian Sayin. It was down to Alabama and Ohio State for his services. And so I still hope they're in on those kinds of guys. But they're also going to have to balance it with the kind of Will Howards, or I guess for Indiana's case, the Fernando Mendoza. Like Ohio State, I think, can be a little bit above that with the staff that they've got now that can develop that. Like, I don't think Miami's got any interest in developing a quarterback from high school to a pro prospect. They're just trying to win now, but Ohio State, I think, is still involved in that. So I think there are places they're still involved in getting those guys to the NFL from right out of high school. You're going to have to, as an Ohio State fan, sit there and be like, well, do you want to win or do you want that kind of development? Because some years, that might be the difference.
And I think Ohio State fan is in a really interesting place of limbo right now, because we talked about Ohio State was trying to continue to be what Ohio State has been and continue to do it in the traditional way, maybe what some of us would say the more right and appropriate way, to recruit guys out of high school, develop them, and have them be stars for you. But it didn't work for you this year, and you want to keep up with the Joneses basically, and when the Joneses change and the game has changed and the rules have changed, you've got to kind of try to shift philosophy on that. And I think it's a weird spot for Ohio State fans right now, because you're used to having all of this talent on your bench, and it's just not the way it's going to be anymore. You can't afford to have guys sitting on your bench developing for 2 and 3 years while paying them all the time to do nothing.
No. And I do wonder if there's going to be a change coming, too, in terms of how big these rosters are. Like, do you need to have 100 kids? Or should it be 70? And pay those? I don't know that you need to. I'm telling you what, you're not going to be compensating kids to redshirt. You're not going to be compensating kids richly to sit. I mean, just think about Devin Sanchez this year. Was he always ready? I don't know. He got better as it went along. But, that's one of those situations where if you're going to pay a 5-star player, you better go be a dude. You need them to be a dude. And those are going to fall back on the player. That's going to fall back on the recruiting process, all of it. Versus what LSU did. LSU just whole new roster. Away we go. Now it takes $40 million or better to do it, and I don't think that's the process. I just think Ohio State's going to hit the sweet spot on this. They typically do. I think what they're doing now is going to be the sweet spot. And I think we've laid it out pretty well in terms of 15 to 18, 5-6 true blue chips, and then portal supplementing beyond.
And it's buyer beware. I mean, I know it's Raising Cane's money, but LSU had better be in the college football playoff this year, right?
Yes.
Like that's the ask when you do all of that. Is there's no time. And Kurt Signetti kind of threw that mold in the trash.
Yes.
Where he was right away poised to put Indiana into a postseason. So, yeah, good luck if what you want to do is the consistent Miami thing, because I don't see the Hurricanes back in the college football playoff next year.
No, unless the Mensa kid's a lot better than we believe.
Yeah.
But I mean, they lost both defensive ends. Yeah, I mean, it's a tough way to go about it. I think the Buckeye plan is a very, very good plan to be able to navigate all